Welcome back to Connect and Transform. In today's video, we're going to go over the function for bar rendering and then just do a few demos and look at the data. This right here is the entire function. A lot of it is constants. Similarly to lines, we're keeping track of the visual portion of the canvas. We're calculating pixels per unit. We have some X and Y offsets. We've got our loops for series and for the data. And then we've got other constants to keep track of elements and constants to keep track of offsets related to stacking the bars. We've got a section of code here that just sets the bar width. In fact, this entire section here, all it's doing is setting the bar width. So that's a fairly large chunk of the entire function. And then we've got a little bit of difference between stacking the bars and not stacking the bars. And that basically is just affecting X and Y offsets for X and Y positioning. We are setting the data series name and the data index, which is used in tooltips. Unlike lines where we were setting the width of the line, here we're setting the height of the rectangle, which makes up the bar. And unlike lines where we had line segments and multiple circles, here we just have a rectangle, and when you hover over the rectangle, that's it. And then we have some logic to handle the work in progress or the lack of work in progress, which applies a diagonal hatch mask over the bars. We're initializing our tooltip functions and event listeners and making sure to append the data node that we've created. And then, of course, appending the entire dataset group element to the graph itself. And that's pretty much it. So really what it boils down to is just X and Y positioning, heights, and then just setting opacities and colors. So let's go over here and look at the demonstration. So you'll remember that in the last video, we wrote a function to randomize the data. And so that's still in place. And we can see an example here with multiple series down lower and a single series up top. And at the very top, we can see one with 6 series. Normally, if I had a graph with 6 series, it would be stacked. Now you'll remember from the past video that because we're randomizing the data, that is not reflective of the normal process of how things would get handled. So the y-axis doesn't recalculate after the data is randomized. But let me go ahead and go over to the host file, and I'm going to change this from bar to bar dash stacked anyway, even knowing that the y-axis is not going to be recalculated. Oh, right. I only changed the third graph. So this graph here and this graph here are not stacking the bars. This one here is. And we can see our linear gradient mask here. So obviously these bars would normally be colliding with the series labels, but our gradient mask is working properly. So there we have it. Bar and bar stacked, properly rendering. Again, if we were not randomizing the data, it would fit better. So in fact, let me scroll up and let's just turn that off. So we're not going to randomize the data anymore. Okay. So we can see the data is not changing as I refresh. This is just whatever I happen to type in and whatever I happen to copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. And we can see that it is stacking. And in this case, this must be an abbreviation here where it says 1.0. I'm pretty sure that's an abbreviation. Oh, or alternatively, I might have manually provided that, because if all of the y-axis data is provided, then the y-axis does not automatically scale. And I think that's what's happening. Let's go look at the host file. Yeah, I've manually set that. So if I increase it by 10% and increase the step by 10%, let's refresh. And the data is no longer poking up above the top of the graph. But yeah, we can see the tooltips here. This is referencing the series test 1. This is referencing test 2, 3, and 4. I guess the data values for all 4 of these are the same because I copied them, except for this line here. So you can see that the tooltip is changing the value to match the data. So here it's 678,000, here it's 128,000. And we can see that in the case of stacking the data, it's also showing a second line with the total. Total, total, total. And we might have had, one of these might have had a specific override. Yeah, there we go. So we purposely overrode the first data point in the first data series. And so we can see tooltip overrides are working. That's a quick overview of bar and bar stacked. Thanks for watching.